Hi guys, I just opened up a jar of this spring onion kimchi and it's so delicious. A salty, spicy, sour fermented dish that can be served on the side as a banchan or used in soups or stews. This is actually particularly good in grilled cheese sandwiches. Kimchi is actually the national dish of Korea and it's super healthy, filled with loads of good bacteria that are really good for gut health. You need to make it a long time in advance though, because it does need a few weeks to ferment. So here's my huge pile of spring onions. You can see here that they're bent and the outer leaves are wilting and black because they've been so long in the fridge. So instead of telling you how many spring onions I'm using, I'm instead going to give you the weight of them once I've trimmed away the dead and tough material. Once that's done and the roots are removed, just cut them into 10cm strips roughly. No need for accuracy here, just keep it rough if it suits you. Once they're all chopped in a large bowl, go ahead and cover them with about 2 tablespoons of fine salt. Now toss the spring onions in the salt to make sure they're all evenly covered, and feel free to give them a bit of a squeeze along the way as well to help the salt permeate the spring onions. Then just set them aside for at least an hour. Though it was here that I remembered that I forgot to weigh them for you, so I just re-zeroed an electric scales with a bowl on top and transferred the spring onions plus the salt into it. You can see that that came to 446 grams, that's slightly under a pound. So now finally I set it aside to let it steep. In the meantime, take 7 cloves of garlic and peel them. Now you can finely mince them with a knife if you like, or finely grate them with a microplane, but I'm going to use a garlic crusher because mine is really good, and just crush them into a large bowl. Follow that with about a teaspoon of finely grated fresh ginger. Just remove the skin first and finely grate it in with a microplane. Next, you need some gochugaru. These are Korean chili flakes and they're really unlike any other chili flakes out there, so you really need to buy these online if you can't find them nearby. They just have a really unique flavour. So add 4 tablespoons of them to the bowl, plus 1 tablespoon of sugar, or that's 3 teaspoons. Next, about 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds. Now I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of this really coarse rock sea salt. If you're using fine flowing salt, just use half as much. Now to help everything dissolve and mix up together, I'm going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. You can use fish sauce here instead if you prefer, but I'm using soy sauce to keep it vegan. And just 1 or 2 tablespoons of cold water. Then just mix everything together with a fork or a whisk until you have a uniform, complete, incorporated paste. Now pile all the spring onions into it, plus the salt that's coated them and any juices that are at the bottom of the bowl. Now I'd advise rubber or latex gloves to mix this up, but while my hands aren't exactly Incredible Hulk sized, the gloves I bought must have been fit for Donald Trump because I tore them right up. So I'm just going to use my bare hands and risk being burnt by the chili and salt. So just toss them all up until all the spring onions are nicely coated in that chili paste. I suggest you try to do this with one hand and keep one hand clean. Then with your clean hand, go ahead and grab a nice clean mason jar. And with your chili hand, go ahead and fill the jar up with your spring onions. I used quite a small jar for this, so I really have to push everything down to make sure that there are no air pockets inside there, but you probably should do that anyway, even if you have a bigger jar. Remember that this is a type of kimchi that can't be eaten fresh because spring onions are so strong tasting, they need to be fermented and broken down before they're edible. So it is worth your while to get every last scrap of your kimchi into the jar. Any other kind of kimchi, I'd say just eat it the way it is, but this needs to be fermented, so get it all in there. So once it was full, I went ahead and added another little bit of the kimchi paste to the top of it and did my best to close it with my one clean hand, which actually took a lot longer than you're seeing here in this video. Then I washed my hands and grabbed some paper towel and wiped down the sides of the outside of the jar and allowed it to set aside at room temperature for a few days. So 4 days later, I opened it up. You can see here that I sat it on a small plate because I overfilled the jar and I should have left about an inch at the top to allow for bubbling. That bubbling is a really good sign though, it means that fermentation is happening. Now take a spoon and push the kimchi back down into its own juices. All those bubbles that are forming around the outside, that means that it is fermenting. Now close it up and give it a good wipe with another paper towel before you transfer it to the fridge to store for at least a week. I actually gave this the most of a month in the fridge because the spring onions do need longer to ferment than cabbage or milder tasting ingredients because they're already quite strong tasting, but they do make for an even more flavoursome kimchi. Now just take a small bowl and scoop out enough spring onions for people to munch on during dinner. I've made so many kinds of kimchi now at this stage. You can check my blog for more recipes, but this is definitely right up there with my favourites. Thanks a million for watching, guys. I hope you liked this recipe. If you did, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. You can check me out on social media if you like. You'll find all the links to my accounts in the description, as well as the link to my blog where you'll find this full recipe at www.rookiecook.org.